Have you ever wondered how an ordinary person might react upon discovering they're in the presence of a celebrity? What if that person had just yelled at that celebrity without knowing who they were? Well, it happened to me. It was a rainy afternoon in Los Angeles, the kind that's rare around here. The dark sky contrasted with the city's neon lights that had begun to flicker as the day was coming to an end. I was exhausted after a long recording session for my new album. My throat was dry, my mind tired, but my stomach, that was screaming louder than a fan in the front row of my show. I decided to stop at a simple diner on the outskirts of the city. It wasn't any fancy place, just one of those typical American diners with worn-out red leather booths and the smell of fresh coffee that embraces you as soon as you open the door. The kind of place where nobody expects to find Snoop Dogg. I pulled my hoodie over my face, adjusted my sunglasses, and entered the nearly empty establishment. Just a few scattered customers, a truck driver with deep under-eye circles drinking coffee, an elderly couple sharing a slice of apple pie, and a group of noisy teenagers in the corner, distracted by their phones. The aroma of fried bacon and pancakes hit me like a wave. Man, my stomach started making its own beat. I chose a secluded table near the window, where I could watch the rain falling and people running for shelter. There was something relaxing about being just another anonymous person in that moment. A waitress approached, young, maybe about 25, pink hair tied in a somewhat messy bun, several tattoos on her arms, and a name tag that read Melissa. She looked as tired as I was, dragging her feet across the black and white tiled floor, balancing a coffee pot in her right hand. "What'll it be?" she asked without lifting her eyes from her notepad. Pencil already positioned to take my order. Black coffee, extra crispy bacon, scrambled eggs, and pancakes with plenty of syrup, please, I replied, keeping my voice low, in a tone different from my usual one. She quickly scribbled on the pad and before walking away, automatically asked, "Anything else?" I looked at the teenagers in the corner who were now laughing loudly while watching some video. "Could you ask those kids to keep it down a bit?" That's when everything started to get interesting, like when you drop that heavy beat in the middle of a song and everyone loses their mind. Melissa sighed deeply, as if I'd asked her to climb Mount Everest after a 12-hour shift. "Look, I've already asked them 3 times. Why don't you handle it yourself? I'm alone on this shift, my feet are killing me, and I still have to deal with 5 tables and the kitchen complaining. If you want silence, speak up yourself or go somewhere else." Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Usually, people don't talk to me that way. In fact, in the last few decades, practically nobody has had the courage to raise their voice at me. It was refreshing in a strange way. She continued, "And you know what else? I don't understand why people like you wear sunglasses inside establishments at night. Do you think you're some kind of celebrity or something? This is a regular diner, not the Grammy red carpet." The few customers present were now looking in our direction. The truck driver stopped with his coffee cup halfway to his mouth. The elderly couple whispered to each other. Even the noisy teenagers lowered the volume of their laughter, curious to see how the situation would unfold. At that moment, I had a choice to make. I could get irritated, make a scene, show who I was, and probably embarrass that exhausted waitress. Or I could, well, be myself, the real Snoop, not the persona many expect. "You're absolutely right," I said calmly as I slowly removed my sunglasses and lowered my hood. The sound of a tray falling echoed through the diner. It wasn't Melissa who dropped it, but one of the cooks who had just come out of the kitchen and recognized me instantly. "Holy Mother of God," he stammered. It's Snoop Dogg." Melissa's face transformed into an expression I can only describe as pure terror mixed with disbelief. Her pale face contrasted drastically with her pink hair. I just yelled at Snoop Dogg," she muttered to herself, as if trying to convince her brain of the impossible reality before her. The teenagers in the corner practically jumped from their chairs, phones in hand, ready for the selfie of the century. The truck driver choked on his coffee. The elderly couple looked confused, probably wondering who the hell this Snoop Dogg was, but my attention was all on Melissa, whose eyes were now welling up. "I'm going to be fired," she whispered. I just yelled at a celebrity. I'm going to lose my job, and I still need to pay rent and college tuition. I raised my hand in a reassuring gesture. Hey, relax. Why would you be fired for treating all customers equally? Actually, that was the most real anyone has been with me in a long time. She blinked, confused. You're not angry? Angry? Nah. Impressed. That's what I am. You've got guts, girl. And you know what? You were absolutely right about the sunglasses. I removed them completely and put them in my pocket. Sometimes we hide behind these things for so long that we forget what it's like to be treated like a normal person. It was true. When you reach a certain level of fame, people start treating you differently. Everything becomes, yes, sir, of course, sir, whatever you want, sir. They laugh at your jokes, even when they're not funny. They agree with you, even when you're talking nonsense. It's like living in a bubble where nobody tells you the truth. And there was Melissa, having no idea who I was, treating me exactly as she would treat any difficult customer at the end of a long shift. There was an honesty in that which I hadn't experienced in a long time. The teenagers approached, asking for photos and autographs. Normally, this would irritate me during a meal, but today, I felt generous. All right, folks, but first, could you keep it down a bit? Ms. Melissa here is having a tough day. They nodded enthusiastically, returning to their table now, in almost reverential silence. The entire diner seemed to be holding its breath, as if everyone was watching a surreal scene unfold. Melissa was still standing there, her notepad forgotten, the pencil loose between her fingers. I really am sorry, she began, but I interrupted. Don't be. Actually, I wanted to thank you. Thank me? Why? For treating me like a normal person. You have no idea how rare that is for me. Look, let's do this. Bring my order when you can, no rush. And let your manager know I'm paying everyone's bill today. Her eyes widened. Everyone's? But it's the least I can do for the little show I'm causing. And, Melissa, when you finish your shift, I'd like to talk to you. I have a proposition. As she walked away, still stunned, I reflected on what had just happened. The universe has a funny way of teaching us lessons when we least expect it. Melissa returned a few minutes later with my order. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed the plate on the table. I noticed she had redone her makeup and adjusted her uniform. The manager, a middle-aged man named Frank, personally came to thank me for the generosity. Mr. Dogg, it's an honor to have you in our establishment, he said formally. Just Snoop, please, I replied, savoring my first sip of coffee. And the honor is mine. You have an amazing team here. I looked directly at Melissa as I said this. Frank nodded, clearly proud but confused. Melissa is one of our best employees. I hope she's been attentive. She was authentic, I replied. That's all we can ask of people, isn't it? After Frank walked away, I invited Melissa to sit with me during her break. Reluctantly, she accepted. So, what's your story? I asked, cutting a piece of pancake soaked in syrup. My story isn't anything special, she replied, nervously playing with a salt shaker. Music student struggling to pay the bills. The Los Angeles cliché. Something clicked in my mind. Music? What kind? Composition and production, she said, gaining a bit more confidence in her voice. I want to work behind the scenes, create the sound, not be the face on the album cover. Now, that was interesting. And how's it going? Honestly, terrible. Nobody takes a girl with pink hair who serves coffee seriously. I've sent demos to every studio in the city, but... She shrugged, leaving the sentence hanging in the air. Do you have anything for me to listen to? Right now. Her eyes widened. Yes, on my phone. But do you really wanna? I wouldn't be asking if I didn't want to. With trembling hands, she took her phone out of her apron pocket, opened a music app, and handed it to me with earphones. I put them on and pressed play. What I heard in the next 3 minutes changed my day, my week, and potentially my next production. The beat was raw, innovative, with a blend of influences I rarely heard in beginning producers. There was soul there, pain, truth. The same truth I saw when she confronted me without knowing who I was. When the music ended, I slowly removed the earphones. She looked at me anxiously, her eyes searching for any sign on my face. "This is yours? You produced this by yourself." She nodded, biting her lower lip. "Melissa, do you know why I ended up at this specific diner today? It wasn't planned. It wasn't because of the food, although these pancakes are killing it. It was the universe, you understand? The universe conspiring." "What do you mean?" "I'm looking for new sounds for my next project. Something different, something fresh. And then a waitress yells at me, puts me in my place, and it happens that she has exactly the sound I'm looking for. If that's not destiny, I don't know what is." The realization of what I was implying began to dawn on her face. "You're not saying..." "I'm saying I want to hear more of your work. And if it's all as good as this, I want you to come to my studio tomorrow." She covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes welling up again, but for completely different reasons now. "This can't be happening," she muttered through her fingers. "It is happening, Melissa. Sometimes life is like that. You're going your way, doing your thing, and bam. Everything changes in an instant." I handed her a card with the studio address and my producer's number. 2 p.m. Bring everything you've got. The rest of the meal passed like a dream. I took pictures with the other customers, signed napkins, listened to stories about how my music had touched their lives. The usual. But my mind was focused on the unexpected discovery I had made. When I finally left the diner, the rain had stopped. The night sky was clear, stars shining over Los Angeles as if they were smiling at me. Melissa walked me to the door. "I still can't believe it," she said, shaking her head. "This morning I woke up worried if I'd have enough money for rent, and now you have a chance," I completed. "But remember, it's not because you yelled at Snoop Dogg that you're getting there. It's because you have talent. The confrontation just made me pay attention." She smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her tired face. "Thank you for not being a pretentious jerk." I laughed out loud. "That's the best review I've ever received. Hasta mañana, Melissa." As I walked back to my car, I reflected on how life can change in an instant, how a moment of authenticity can open doors that no amount of forced networking ever could, and how sometimes we need to be put in our place to see what's right in front of us. The next day, Melissa showed up at the studio exactly at 2 p.m., carrying a worn laptop and a look of determination. 6 months later, she was signing as an associate producer on 3 tracks of my new album, including the lead single. And all because a waitress didn't know she was yelling at Snoop Dogg. Life is funny like that, isn't it? Sometimes, our greatest blessing comes disguised as an embarrassing moment. Sometimes we miss opportunities because we're too busy trying to be who we think we should be instead of being authentic. So, the next time you're having a rough day, remember, you never know who's watching. And the next time you're hiding, who you really are behind a hood and sunglasses, metaphorically or literally, remember that your greatest strength might be in simply being yourself. Why am I sharing this story? Because we all need these reminders from time to time, even Snoop Dogg, especially Snoop Dogg. Peace.